Okay, in this example we're now going to add to the fifth file to add in some collision detection in the vertical axes, and also to add in gravity and to add in jumps. So we should, by the end of this, be nearer to the creation of a full game. Very basic platform, but you'll have all the core ingredients to then go ahead and finalize your own individual games. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to be adding in some further bounce variables, bump variables, and pressed variables to check for keys pressed, new key that's been introduced as the up key, to check and add bump points, a bump point for the top of the character, some speed in the y-axis, some constants, gravity and jump, adding additional conditions, adding further conditions in hit testing, and updating based on up and down bumping. So essentially just basically tying up loose ends. So this might seem quite complicated, but actually it's reusing code that we've already covered in the last 5 videos. Okay, to start off with, we will be introducing the up pressed, which is another Boolean variable. And again, that will be false, adding the up bumping Boolean. And we can also include the down bumping, which we'll use to say not only when we are on the ground, but also if we are on platforms in the air that are to be treated as ground. Okay, and we just need one additional bump point, and that will be up bump point. And the reason being, we already have the coordinates for the middle bottom of the character, the centre bottom position. That's where our registration point was set. Okay, so based on the figures we had for the size of this character, which at 100% scaling is 186 by just short of 300, therefore the centre point for the top will actually be 0, and the y coordinate will be a negative, half the height would be 75, so 150, which is 50% of 300, and therefore the top of this character, which is scaled to 50%. We then need to add in the Y speed so that we can animate in a similar way to how we have already. That will be an integer, and that will be set to 0. These could be numbers as well, but just given that we were adding whole numbers to them, we will leave it as an integer. Okay, and we're going to insert some constants. Both will be numbers, just in case we would like it to be something other than a whole number. So gravity can be, let's go for 1.2 on there, and then jump will be a much greater number, because it needs to overcome gravity, and we will only actually implement it once. We'll set that to 25 to start off with. Okay, so then we need to add some conditions to the key event handlers, and the same as we've previously added for left and right, except we'll change it. So instead of key code equaling keyboard left, it will equal keyboard dot up, and instead of equals true, it will be up pressed equals true. We can take that and then copy and paste into our key up event handler. It'll be exactly the same, except it will equal false when the key is released. Let's put a semicolon there. Okay, so far we haven't really done anything particularly taxing. Now we just need to add some bump points, hit testing using the bump points we've created. So I'm just going to copy and paste this one first, and instead of it being left bump point, it will be up bump point X and up bump point Y. Strictly speaking, we don't actually need up bump point X because it's 0, but for continuity's sake we will put that in there. We may, for instance, scale the character. Maybe we wish to add bump points to the top left and top right as opposed to the center. So instead of left bumping, we'll have up bumping equals true and true. Adding our down bump points, but in this case we don't need to use bump points at all. It's just the X position of our instance and the Y position of our instance, and then we'll now make down bumping true or false dependent on whether that is the case. And then we need to update the up and down bumping. Okay, so first off we'll just check for the up bumping, because that's the simplest one, and essentially that is just the same as our left and right, in that we're checking to see if up bumping is true. If that's true, then we will check to see if the Y speed is less than 0, and that's similar to left is because a negative speed would be going vertically upwards. For if that would be the case, we would likely experience bumps on the top surface of the character. Okay, just double check that we've introduced the Y speed variable. We have. Okay, and then similarly we will have down bumping, which instead of being Y speed less than 0 will be greater than 0. And then another thing we will check for in the down bumping is, as this represents when we're on the ground, we're going to check whether up has been pressed or not, because we don't want to be jumping unless we're starting on the ground or starting on a platform. So if up is pressed, we will then update the Y speed accordingly. So we'll minus equals, which will mean take the value away from current Y speed, and this will make the character go vertically up. And then using the constant jump, and all we need to do after that is have an else statement which basically means if the character isn't touching the ground, therefore it would be floating in the air, gravity should have some kind of effect on that. And we will just skip at that point, because all we really should need to do now is update the background's Y position, minus equals Y speed, and hopefully we test that. Sorry, BG, that surface going to the right. It's not that refined. And there we go, character jumps and bounces off of objects, and that is essentially the objective completed, which is a very crude but functional basis for a platform game.